My son came home with tears streaming down his face, whispering through sobs that Auntie Sarah had made him wait outside in the freezing November wind while everyone else went shopping. 5 hours. A 9-year-old boy alone, because my sister-in-law decided he wasn't worthy of joining the family outing. I knelt down and wiped his tears, my hands steady even as rage built inside me like a pressure cooker. But I didn't let it show. Not yet. Tommy's lips were still pale from the cold, his fingers stiff as I rubbed warmth back into them. He'd been wearing just a light jacket because Sarah had told him they'd only be gone for 30 minutes. "Tell me exactly what happened, sweetheart," I said softly, keeping my voice level even though every instinct screamed at me to grab my keys and drive to Sarah's house immediately. Tommy's voice cracked as he explained. They'd all piled into Sarah's SUV that morning. My husband's sister, her 2 kids, my mother-in-law, and Tommy. Sarah had announced they were going to the new shopping center downtown. Tommy was excited. He loved spending time with his cousins. He'd been talking about it all week, asking what stores they'd visit and whether they'd get lunch together. But when they arrived at the massive parking lot, Sarah turned around in the driver's seat and looked directly at my son. The smile on Tommy's face had frozen. "Tommy, you need to wait here in the car," she'd said, her tone casual like she was discussing the weather. "This is a special shopping trip for family members who contribute. You'll just slow us down." My mother-in-law had nodded in agreement from the passenger seat. "Sarah's right. The boy can wait. He's too young to appreciate these stores anyway." Tommy had protested, confused. "But I thought we were all going shopping together?" Sarah's daughter Emma had laughed. "This is for people who actually deserve nice things, Tommy." They'd locked him in the car for the first hour. When Tommy started crying and banging on the windows, Sarah unlocked it remotely and told him through text to stop being dramatic and wait on the bench outside the main entrance instead. In 40-degree weather. Without a proper coat because they'd told him they'd be gone for just 30 minutes. Tommy described watching families walk past him, wondering why his family had left him there. He tried to stay positive at first, thinking they'd come back soon. But 1 hour became 2, then 3. A security guard had checked on him twice, asking if he was okay if someone was coming for him. Tommy had lied and said his mom was inside shopping, too embarrassed to admit the truth. 5 hours later they came back laughing, carrying shopping bags from at least a dozen stores, talking about the wonderful lunch they'd had at the Italian restaurant inside. Sarah tossed him a bag of leftover breadsticks. "Here, we brought you something," she'd said like she'd done him a favor. Tommy had been shivering on that bench the entire time, watching the sun set, watching the temperature drop, watching his breath fog in the air. I held my son close and felt something cold settle into my chest. Not anger. Anger was too hot, too impulsive. This was calculation. "Go take a warm bath, honey," I told Tommy. "Everything's going to be okay." After he went upstairs, I sat in my kitchen and stared at my phone. I could call Sarah right now and scream at her. I could call my husband who was on a business trip. I could cry or break things or drive over there and cause a scene. Instead, I opened my laptop and sent 3 emails. Then I got in my car. Sarah lived in a beautiful colonial house in the suburbs, the kind with the perfect lawn and the Range Rover in the driveway. She'd always made a point of reminding everyone that she was successful, that she'd built something with her husband. They managed 3 stores in a regional retail chain. Middle management, really, but Sarah acted like she was running a Fortune 500 company. Every family gathering included updates about her corporate responsibilities and leadership influence. I'd always let her have those moments, let her feel important. It never seemed worth the conflict to correct her inflated sense of authority. That was about to change. I parked outside and walked up the stone pathway, past the decorative planters and the wreath on the door. I rang the bell. Sarah answered with a wine glass in her hand, her face flushed from what was clearly a celebration of their shopping success. "Oh," she said, her smile fading slightly. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk about today," I said calmly. She rolled her eyes and stepped aside to let me in. The living room was full of people. My mother-in-law, Sarah's husband Mark, their 2 teenage daughters, and a few family friends I recognized from gatherings. "Everyone, look who decided to drop by," Sarah announced with false cheerfulness. "I'm guessing Tommy told you about today." "He did," I said quietly. My mother-in-law spoke up from the couch. "Before you start, that boy needed to learn he can't always be included in everything. Sarah was doing you a favor by teaching him boundaries." I nodded slowly. Boundaries. Interesting word for abandoning a 9-year-old in the cold for 5 hours. Sarah set down her wine glass. Oh, don't be so dramatic. He was fine. He was sitting right outside the mall entrance. Perfectly safe. Safe, I repeated. He was shivering and crying. Mark, Sarah's husband, stood up. His voice had an edge of irritation. Listen, Sarah makes the decisions about who gets included in family activities. She's the one who organized the whole day, used her employee discount to get everyone deals at the stores. Maybe you should be grateful she even brought Tommy along instead of complaining. Several people in the room nodded. My mother-in-law added, "You've always been too sensitive about that boy. He needs to toughen up." I stood there absorbing their words, my face neutral. Sarah, you mentioned using your employee discount? She brightened, clearly happy to change the subject to her achievements. Yes, I saved everyone at least 30% today. Mark and I have been managing the Valley Ridge location for 6 years now. We practically run the whole district. The regional manager knows us personally. That's impressive, I said. Which stores did you visit today? All 3 of our locations, Mark said proudly. Valley Ridge, Thornwood Plaza, and the new Riverside Center store. We're overseeing the expansion. Corporate trusts us completely. I pulled out my phone. The Riverside Center. That's the new flagship store, right? Sarah was practically glowing now. It is. Beautiful location. We had input on everything from the layout to the hiring. That's the level of authority we have in this company. Authority, I said softly. Then I looked up at her. Sarah, what's the name of the company you work for? She frowned at the odd question. Meridian Retail Group. Everyone knows that. And Mark, you said you practically run the district. How many stores are in your district? 8 stores across the region, he said, chest puffed out. We manage 3 directly, but we have oversight influence on the others. I'm being considered for district manager next year. I nodded and tapped my phone screen a few times. So when you used your employee discount today, that was at Meridian Retail Group stores. All 3 locations. Yes, Sarah said slowly, her smile fading as she tried to understand where this was going. Why does this matter? It matters, I said, my voice still calm. Because I'm trying to understand how you thought it was acceptable to abuse my son while using benefits from a company I own. The room went completely silent. Sarah laughed, but it sounded forced. What are you talking about? I looked at my phone again. I'm talking about Meridian Retail Group. The company founded by my late father. The company I inherited when he passed away 3 years ago. The company that employs you and your husband. Mark's face went pale. That's impossible. Meridian is owned by the Morrison Family Trust. It is, I agreed. My maiden name is Morrison. I kept my married name for personal reasons, but the trust documents are very clear about who controls the company. My mother-in-law stood up. This is absurd. You're making this up. I pulled up an email on my phone and turned it toward them. This is from Meridian's CEO, confirming receipt of my instructions sent 40 minutes ago. Would you like me to read it aloud? Sarah's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the hardwood floor. No one moved to clean it up. I read the email anyway. Mrs. Morrison, we've received your directive regarding the Valley Ridge, Thornwood Plaza, and Riverside Center locations. Security protocols are being updated as requested. Store management will be notified within the hour. The transition team is standing by for your call. Mark's voice came out as a whisper. What transition team? Before I could answer, Sarah's phone buzzed. Then Mark's. Then both started ringing simultaneously. Sarah looked at her screen, her hand shaking. It's corporate headquarters. You should probably answer that, I said quietly. She put it on speaker. A professional woman's voice came through. Ms. Williams, this is Jennifer Park from Meridian Corporate HR. I'm calling to inform you that effective immediately, your employment with Meridian Retail Group has been terminated. Your access credentials have been revoked, and security has been notified to collect your store keys and employee badge. You have 72 hours to remove personal items from your office under security supervision. Sarah couldn't speak. Mark answered his phone with trembling hands. The same message word for word. My mother-in-law's face had gone sheet white. You can't do this. They have families. They have mortgages. They abandoned a child in the cold for 5 hours, I said, my voice still eerily calm. Why child? While bragging about their authority in a company they didn't realize I control. Mark finally found his voice. The regional manager knows us. He'll fix this. You can't just fire us without cause. I smiled for the first time since arriving. The regional manager reports to the district VP, who reports to the COO, who reports directly to me. I've already spoken with all of them. There is no appeal process for this decision. Another phone buzzed. This time it was one of the family friends, someone who worked at the Thornwood location. She looked at her screen and gasped. There's a company-wide email. All 3 stores are closing tomorrow for emergency management restructuring. I nodded. The stores will reopen Monday with new management teams. Professional managers who understand that family members of the owner deserve respect, not abandonment in 40-degree weather. Sarah's face crumpled. Please. We've worked there for 6 years. Mark was going to be district manager. We can't lose everything because of one mistake. One mistake. I repeated. You locked my 9-year-old son in a car, then left him shivering on a bench for 5 hours while you shopped and had lunch. You used company benefits I provide while treating my child as less than human. That's not a mistake, Sarah. That's cruelty. My mother-in-law stepped forward. I'll talk to my son. Your husband will make you see reason. My husband, I said, is currently on a flight back from Chicago. I called him 2 hours ago. He's fully aware of the situation and completely supports my decision. He's actually the one who suggested I visit you in person instead of handling this solely through corporate channels. The room felt like all the air had been sucked out of it. Mark's voice was desperate now. What about our daughters? They'll lose their health insurance. Sarah's parents depend on the family discount for their medications. I looked at their 2 teenage daughters who sat frozen on the couch, finally understanding that their mother's cruelty had consequences. Your daughters will be fine, I said. COBRA coverage will be offered as per standard termination procedures. As for family discounts, those are employment benefits. They end with employment. Sarah dropped to her knees, actually dropped to her knees. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll apologize to Tommy. I'll make it right. You should apologize to Tommy, I agreed. But that won't change what's already happened. The termination stands. I walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. Do you know what Tommy asked me when he got home? He asked if he'd done something wrong. If he was a bad kid. A 9-year-old boy, freezing and alone, thought he deserved to be punished. Sarah was crying now, mascara streaking down her face. That's the part one can't forgive, I continued. Not the inconvenience. Not the cold. The fact that you made my son feel worthless. And you did it while benefiting from a company my father built. A company I run. A company that exists partly to provide for family. My mother-in-law's voice was small. What about me? I looked at her directly. What about you? I agreed with Sarah. I told Tommy to wait. Will you fire me from the family too? I considered this. You don't work for me, so I can't fire you. But you won't be welcome in my home anymore. You made your choice today when you valued Sarah's ego over your grandson's well-being. I opened the door, letting in the cold November air that had tormented my son hours earlier. The security team will be here within the hour to collect your store credentials, I said to Sarah and Mark. I suggest you cooperate fully. And Sarah? The next time you make a child wait in the cold, remember this moment. Remember that actions have consequences, even when you think you have all the power. I walked to my car, got in and drove home. Tommy was out of the bath, wrapped in his warmest pajamas, sitting with hot chocolate and his favorite movie. He looked up when I came in. Did you talk to Auntie Sarah? He asked quietly. I sat beside him and pulled him close. I did. Is she mad at me? No, sweetheart. She's not mad at you. And she's never going to make you wait in the cold again. Promise. I kissed the top of his head. I promise. He relaxed against me, finally warm and safe. Outside, the November wind picked up, rattling the windows. I thought about Sarah and Mark, probably still standing in their living room, phones ringing with calls from corporate, their perfect life crumbling around them. I didn't feel guilty. I felt the same cold certainty I'd felt all evening. Some people think power is about titles or money or authority. But real power is knowing when to use it. and understanding that some lines once crossed can never be uncrossed. My son fell asleep against my shoulder, his breathing steady and peaceful. That was all the validation I needed. The morning started like any family gathering where I'm invisible until they need something. My mother called at 6. The caterer needs someone to set up early. You'll handle it. Not a question. Never a question. I'll be there at 7, I said. Bring the children. They can help. My daughter Emma, age 12, was still sleeping. My son Lucas, 14, was already awake. Both had learned early how our family worked. My parents treated me like hired help. My siblings treated me like I didn't exist. The wedding was for my younger sister Victoria. She'd found herself a corporate lawyer with family money. The venue was Riverside Manor, an elegant estate overlooking the water. We arrived at 7. The parking attendant directed us to the service entrance. Family uses the front, I said. He checked his tablet. Your name isn't on the family list. Service entrance for vendors. Emma squeezed my hand. Lucas's jaw tightened. We walked around to the back. Inside, my mother was already ordering people around. She saw us and pointed at the boxes stacked near the kitchen. Those centerpieces need to go to the tables. The florist quit this morning. You'll have to arrange them yourself. Good morning to you too, Mom, I said quietly. She ignored that. And keep the children out of sight. Victoria doesn't want them in the photos. They're not dressed appropriately anyway. Emma wore a simple blue dress I'd made myself. Lucas had a clean button-down and slacks. They looked fine. They looked like children at a wedding. They look nice, I said. They look poor, my mother corrected. Keep them busy in the back. For 2 hours we arranged flowers. Emma had a good eye for color. Lucas helped me carry the heavy vases. Nobody thanked us. Nobody acknowledged us. My father appeared around 9. The chairs on the terrace are wrong. Fix them. The event coordinator should handle that, I said. The coordinator is dealing with real problems. You can move chairs. So we moved chairs. 48 white folding chairs, repositioned 3 times because my father couldn't decide on the spacing. My brother David showed up around 10 with his wife and their 2 sons. They were led to the bridal suite. Champagne was already waiting. I could hear them laughing. We were still moving chairs. Victoria emerged at 11 for photos. She looked beautiful. I had to admit that. The dress was gorgeous, the makeup perfect. She saw me and her expression soured. Why are you in the venue? You're supposed to stay in the service areas. Mom asked me to help set up, I said. Well, you're done now. Go wait outside until the ceremony. It's 95 degrees outside, Lucas said. Victoria looked at him like he'd spit on her dress. Then find some shade. I don't want you hovering around while I'm taking photos. Emma's hand found mine again. Her palm was sweaty. Not from heat, from humiliation. We sat on a bench behind the kitchen for an hour. Staff walked past us, some offering sympathetic looks. They could tell we weren't vendors. They could tell what was happening. At noon, guests started arriving. We were allowed back inside to sit in the last row. Not with family. Behind family. Behind friends. Behind people my parents had met once. The ceremony was short. Victoria cried prettily. Her new husband looked proud. My parents beamed in the front row like they'd accomplished something extraordinary by producing a daughter who could marry money. The reception was in the main ballroom. We were seated at a table near the kitchen doors. Just the 3 of us. No place cards. No assigned seats. Just the understanding that this was where we belonged. Emma watched the other children running around the dance floor. Lucas scrolled on his phone. I watched my family celebrate without us. Dinner was served. Our table was served last. The chicken was cold. The server apologized quietly. It's fine, I told him. My mother approached our table after the main course, champagne in hand. Victoria wants a photo with all the nieces and nephews. Not your children. The other ones. Why not Emma and Lucas? I asked. Because this is Victoria's day and she wants it to be perfect. Your children don't fit the aesthetic she's going for. Emma's face was stone. 12 years old and already an expert at hiding pain. They're family, I said. They're your responsibility, my mother corrected. Victoria's been very clear about what she wants. She walked away. Just like that, dismissed us and walked away. Lucas put his phone down. Can we leave? After cake, I said. We'll stay for cake and then go. But we didn't make it to cake. The stairs were the problem. The venue had 2 staircases, a grand main staircase in the entrance hall and a service staircase near the kitchen. Emma needed to use the restroom. The nearest one was upstairs. She headed for the main stairs. My mother intercepted her. Not those stairs, she said sharply. Emma stopped. I just need the bathroom. Use the service stairs. The main stairs are for guests. She is a guest, I said, standing up. My mother's face hardened. She's your daughter. She uses the back stairs. Emma turned toward the service stairs without arguing. She'd learned. God help me, she'd learned to just accept it. But my mother wasn't done. As Emma started to walk away, my mother grabbed her shoulder and shoved her toward the service entrance. Hard. Emma stumbled, catching herself on the wall. She blinked twice. Didn't cry. Didn't whimper. Just steadied herself and kept walking. Lucas stood up so fast his chair fell over. Funny, he said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Because this maid's daughter owns the venue. The conversations around us stopped. My mother's face went white. Chilly white. What did you say? She whispered. I said Emma owns Riverside Manor. Has for 3 years. Inherited it from her grandmother. Her other grandmother. The one who actually loved us. My father appeared, sensing drama. What's going on here? Your grandson is telling lies, my mother said. I'm telling the truth, Lucas said calmly. Call the manager if you don't believe me. Victoria approached, her wedding coordinator trailing behind her. What's happening? Why are people staring? Nothing's happening, my mother said quickly. Just a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Lucas said. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times and turned it toward my parents. Here's the property deed. Emma Catherine Morrison, sole owner. That's my sister. I'd been quiet this whole time. Watching. The way I always watched. It's true, I said softly. Emma's grandmother left her the estate. We've been managing it through a property trust. Emma wanted to let Victoria use it for the wedding. I tried to tell you months ago, but you hung up before I could finish. My mother grabbed the phone from Lucas. He stared at the screen. The deed was real. The signature was notarized. The ownership was clear. This is impossible, she said. It's public record, I said. You could have looked it up any time. Victoria's face had gone from white to red. You're saying I'm having my wedding at a venue my niece owns? Yes, I said. And you didn't think to mention this? I tried. Multiple times. You told me you didn't want my input on your special day. The wedding coordinator cleared her throat. Mrs. Morrison, I need to speak with you. There are some contract issues we should discuss. She was looking at Emma. 12-year-old Emma, who owned the property she was standing on. My father found his voice. This is ridiculous. A child can't own property. A child can inherit property, Lucas corrected. And a trust can manage it until she's 18. I've been reading the documentation. It's all legal. The venue manager appeared, drawn by the commotion. She was a woman in her 40s, professional and calm. Is there a problem? She asked. Are you aware that this child claims to own this property? My mother demanded, pointing at Emma. The manager smiled. I'm very aware. Miss Emma and her mother have been wonderful to work with. We have quarterly meetings to review operations. Quarterly meetings, my father repeated faintly. Yes. The estate generates significant income. Miss Emma's trust has been very well managed. She looked at Victoria. I understood this was a family event. Has there been some confusion? Victoria looked like she might faint. Her new husband put a hand on her back. Nobody told me, Victoria said. Nobody said anything. I tried to tell you, I said again. You told me to stop bothering you with irrelevant details. The manager's expression shifted slightly. She'd heard enough. Well, this is certainly an interesting situation. The contract for today's event was signed by the property owner's representative. That would be Mrs. Morrison. She nodded at me. Everything is in order legally. I want to speak to the actual owner, my mother demanded. I'm 12, Emma said quietly. It was the first time she'd spoken since being shoved. But I own this. My grandmother left it to me because she said I'd appreciate beauty. She said some people only see value. Some people see beauty. I see both. Her voice was steady, clear. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She was just stating facts. This is unacceptable, my mother said. We're family. You should have given us the venue for free. You're having it for free, I said. I waived all the fees. The contract shows a family discount of 100%. You're not paying anything. The wedding coordinator pulled out her tablet, tapped through screens and nodded in confirmation. Victoria sat down hard in the nearest chair. I've been bragging for months about booking this exclusive venue. It is exclusive, the manager said. We only host 12 events per year. This month's event is yours. Courtesy of the owner. The owner you shoved down the stairs, Lucas added. He wasn't being cruel. Just factual. My father seemed to age 10 years in 10 seconds. We didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. You've never asked about our lives. You call when you need something. You dismiss us when you don't. You seated us by the kitchen. You excluded my children from photos. You told Emma to use the service entrance of a building she owns. We should discuss this privately, my mother said. No, I said. The word surprised even me. We're done discussing things privately. We're done with me being quiet. Emma just watched her grandmother push her toward a back staircase. Lucas just had to defend his sister at a family wedding. This ends now. Victoria started crying. Real crying, not the pretty ceremony tears. You've ruined my wedding, she sobbed. I gave you a venue worth $50,000 for free, I said. You ruined your own wedding by treating my children like servants. The manager stepped back professionally. I'll give you some privacy to resolve this. The event will continue as planned. Miss Emma has been very clear that family events should be honored, regardless of personal circumstances. She left. Other guests were pretending not to watch while absolutely watching. My mother reached for Emma. Sweetheart, I didn't know. Emma stepped back. You knew I was your granddaughter. That should have been enough. 12 years old. Speaking truth that adults couldn't manage. Lucas picked up his fallen chair and sat down. Are we still staying for cake? I looked at my children. Emma, who owned property and had been shoved toward service stairs. Lucas, who defended his sister when adults wouldn't. No, I said. We're leaving. You can't leave, Victoria cried. What will people think? That we have somewhere better to be, I said. Which we do. Anywhere is better than here. We walked out through the main entrance. Not the service entrance. The grand main doors that opened onto the circular driveway. The parking attendant saw us and smiled. Good event, Mrs. Morrison? Interesting event, I said. Very interesting. He opened our car doors. We drove away from Riverside Manor, the estate my daughter owned, the venue where my family had tried to make us invisible. Emma was quiet in the back seat. Then she said, Grandma's going to call and apologize. Probably, I agreed. I don't want to talk to her. You don't have to. Lucas turned around to look at his sister. That was pretty cool what you said about beauty and value. Grandma Morrison always said that. She said some people only count money. But beauty matters too. She was right, I said. My phone rang before we even made it to the highway. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. My father. Voicemail. Victoria. Voicemail. Emma watched the calls come in. They want to fix it now. Now that they know what you own, Lucas said. Not because they're sorry. Smart kids. They understood exactly what was happening. We stopped for ice cream on the way home. Sat outside in the heat, eating sundaes and not talking about the wedding. Can we sell Riverside? Emma asked eventually. It's yours, I said. We can do whatever you want with it. He thought about that. Grandma Morrison left it to me for a reason. I should keep it. But maybe we should have rules about who can use it. What kind of rules? Lucas asked. Nice people only, Emma said. People who don't push kids toward back staircases. That's a good rule, I agreed. We finished our ice cream. We drove home to our small house with the mortgage I paid myself, the life I'd built without my family's help or approval. My phone kept ringing. I kept ignoring it. Eventually Emma said, You can answer. I'm okay. I know you're okay, I said. You're better than okay. You're extraordinary. Because I own property? Because you owned that moment. You didn't cry. You didn't yell. You just stood there and let the truth do the work. She smiled. Small but real. Grandma Morrison would have liked that, she said. Grandma Morrison would have loved that, I corrected. The calls stopped around midnight. By then we were home, the kids were in bed, and I was sitting in the quiet thinking about stairs and service entrances and children who owned beautiful things but were treated like they owned nothing. Tomorrow my family would try again. They'd apologize. They'd explain. They'd want back in. But tonight we were enough. Just us. Just this. The wedding continued without us. Victoria got her perfect day, minus the family she'd excluded from photos. My parents got their celebration, minus the daughter and grandchildren they'd shoved aside. And we got ice cream and truth and the understanding that ownership isn't about property. It's about knowing your worth, speaking your truth, and walking out the main entrance with your head up. Emma owned Riverside Manor. But more importantly, she owned herself. And that was worth more than any estate. The New Year's Eve party was in full swing at my parents' house when it happened. My mother had insisted on hosting as she did every year, despite the fact that her home was now significantly smaller than the house my daughter owned. Downsizing had been hard on them after my father's layoff, moving from their sprawling suburban home to this modest townhouse. But tradition was tradition, and I'd learned to pick my battles carefully over the years. The living room was crowded with family members. My sister Jennifer and her husband occupied the love seat near the fireplace. My brother Mark sat at the dining table with his girlfriend, both of them scrolling through their phones between conversations. The coffee table was covered with appetizers my mother had spent 2 days preparing, determined to prove that a smaller house didn't mean a smaller celebration. My son Lucas, age 12, had been excited about his gift for weeks. He'd saved his allowance from helping his father with yard work and carefully chosen a vintage fountain pen for my father, who collected them. Lucas had spent hours researching online, reading reviews on collector forums to make sure it was a Parker duofold from the 1930s, one my father didn't already have. He'd even had it professionally cleaned and restored at a specialty shop downtown, spending extra money he'd earned from tutoring younger students in math. When gift exchange time came, Lucas proudly handed the wrapped box to his grandfather. My father opened it with his usual gruff efficiency, barely glancing at the pen inside. He said, setting it aside. My mother leaned over to look. Her expression shifted to something cold. We don't keep presents from children who aren't real family. The room went silent. My sister Jennifer stopped mid-conversation. My brother Mark's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Lucas blinked twice. His face stayed neutral, though I saw his jaw tighten slightly. He'd learned that tell from me over the years. Then my daughter Emma stood up from where she'd been sitting quietly in the corner, checking her phone. At 24 she had her father's height and my stubborn streak. She set her wine glass down with precise care. Just like we don't keep employees who insult the CEO's kids, she said, her voice pleasant and conversational. My parents' faces drained of color at the same time. Emma, my mother started, her voice thin. No, I think we should clarify something, Emma continued. She looked at Lucas. Are you okay? He nodded. I'm fine. Good. Emma turned back to my parents. Because I want to make sure everyone understands the situation clearly. My father cleared his throat. Emma, sweetheart, your mother didn't mean. She meant exactly what she said, Emma interrupted. Lucas isn't biologically related to you, so in her view he's not real family. She's made that clear multiple times over the past 3 years. The comments about him not being invited to family photos. The separate table at Thanksgiving. The suggestions that he call you by your first names instead of grandma and grandpa. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. She'd witnessed those moments too but had never said anything. Emma, let's not do this now, my mother said, forcing a smile. It's New Year's Eve. We're all family here. Are we? Emma asked. Because 3 minutes ago, you explicitly stated that Lucas is not real family. I finally found my voice. Mom, you need to apologize to Lucas. For what? For being honest. My mother's defenses were going up. He's your husband's son from a previous relationship. That's just a fact. We're not blood related to him. And you're not blood related to Dad's company either, Emma said quietly. But that hasn't stopped you from working there for the past 18 months. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. My father stood up. That's completely different. I've worked in corporate finance for 30 years. And you were unemployed for 2 years before Emma hired you, I said, finally understanding where my daughter was going with this. Both of you were. After my father's firm downsized in 2022, he struggled to find work. At 63, he was considered too old by most companies, despite his impressive resume and decades of corporate finance experience. The rejection letters piled up. The interviews went nowhere. The networking events led only to polite brush-offs. My mother, who had worked as his executive assistant for years at the same firm, was let go at the same time. They both faced the harsh reality of age discrimination in a market that valued youth over experience. Emma had graduated from Stanford that spring with dual degrees in computer science and business administration. She'd taken over as CEO of the medical software company her late father founded 12 years earlier. The company, Meditech Solutions, developed patient management systems for hospitals and had grown to employ over 300 people across 4 states. One of Emma's first actions after assuming control was creating 2 new positions: Chief Financial Consultant and Executive Office Manager. Custom design roles that matched my parents' skills while accommodating their age and experience level. She'd hired them both, offering salaries that exceeded what they'd made at their previous jobs. You've both been collecting 6-figure salaries from my company, Emma continued. Plus benefits. Plus the use of a company car for Dad. Plus the executive healthcare plan that covered Mom's knee surgery last year. My mother's hand went to her knee automatically. Emma, we've earned those positions, my father insisted. I've saved the company significant money with the new accounting protocols. Which is why I haven't fired you yet, Emma said. Despite the multiple HR complaints. That was news to me. I looked at my daughter sharply. HR complaints? Emma pulled out her phone and scrolled through it. 3 formal complaints in the past year. 2 from junior staff members who overheard derogatory comments about Lucas at company events. 1 from the facilities manager, who witnessed an incident at the holiday party where Grandma refused to include Lucas in the family photo for the company newsletter. Those were personal matters, my mother protested. Not company business. You were at company events, representing my executive team, making my family look prejudiced and cruel. Emma's voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath. Do you know how that reflects on the company culture I'm trying to build? Jennifer finally spoke up. Emma, I'm sure Mom didn't mean it the way it sounded. She meant it exactly the way it sounded, Lucas said quietly. We all turned to him. It's okay. I'm used to it. That broke my heart more than anything else that evening. Emma walked over and put her hand on Lucas's shoulder. You shouldn't have to be used to it. You're my brother. You've been part of this family for 3 years. The fact that you came from Dad's previous relationship doesn't make you less family than I am. My parents exchanged a look. My mother tried a different tactic. Emma, you have to understand. We raised you. We knew your father. This boy just showed up when your mother remarried. This boy has a name, I said sharply. And he didn't show up. I married his father. We became a family. You were invited to be part of that family. You chose to draw lines instead. We have a right to our feelings, my father said. You do, Emma agreed. And I have a right to decide who represents my company, who I trust to uphold the values Dad built this company on. He always said that family, chosen or biological, was everything. He paused, letting that sink in. Dad would be ashamed of how you've treated Lucas, Emma continued. He would never have tolerated this kind of exclusion. He would have stood up for him immediately. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Don't you dare tell me what my son-in-law would have thought. Your son-in-law left me a company worth $200 million, Emma said flatly. He left detailed succession plans. He left value statements and cultural guidelines. And nowhere in any of those documents did he suggest that love should be conditional on genetics. The room was completely silent now except for the muted sound of televised New Year's celebrations from someone else's party outside. Emma looked at her phone again. It's 11:30. I'm going to give you both a choice. You can apologize sincerely to Lucas right now. You can acknowledge that he is part of this family and deserves to be treated with the same respect you show everyone else. Or you can plan to clean out your offices on January 2nd. You can't fire us over a personal disagreement, my father blustered. I can fire you for violating company harassment policies, Emma corrected. I can fire you for creating a hostile environment. I can fire you for conduct unbecoming of executive-level staff. I have 3 documented HR complaints and about a dozen witnesses to tonight's incident alone. My brother Mark, who'd been silent this entire time, finally spoke. Jesus Christ, Mom. Just apologize. This is insane. Stay out of this, Mark, my mother snapped. No, he's right, Jennifer added. You've been horrible to Lucas. We've all seen it. We just didn't want to make waves. My mother looked around the room, finally realizing she had no allies left. This is ridiculous. We're being blackmailed by a 24-year-old. I'm the 24-year-old who signs your paychecks, Emma said. I'm the 24-year-old who approved your healthcare that cost the company $40,000 last year. I'm the 24-year-old who gave you both jobs when no one else would hire you. She walked over to Lucas and knelt so she was eye level with him. Do you want to stay at this party? He shook his head. Can we just go home? Absolutely. She stood up and looked at me. Mom, get your coat. We're leaving. I started gathering our things. My husband texted that he was outside with the car. He'd wisely stayed home from this particular gathering, knowing my parents still hadn't fully accepted our marriage. If you walk out that door, don't expect to be welcomed back, my father said, his voice tight with anger. Emma paused at the doorway. I own a 4-bedroom house with a guest suite. Mom and Lucas and James are welcome there anytime. You two, on the other hand, might want to spend the weekend updating your resumes. Emma, please, my mother's voice cracked. Don't do this. Not over him. His name is Lucas, Emma repeated. And I'm not doing this over him. I'm doing this because of you. Because you've shown me exactly who you are, and I don't want people like that representing my company or my family. We left. Behind us, I could hear my mother crying and my father arguing. Jennifer was trying to mediate. Mark was telling them they'd brought this on themselves. In the car, Lucas was quiet. Emma sat in the back with him, her arm around his shoulders. I'm sorry, he finally said. I didn't mean to cause problems. You didn't cause anything, Emma said firmly. They did. And they're going to face consequences for it. Are you really going to fire them? I asked, looking at her in the rearview mirror. If they don't apologize and commit to change, yes. She wasn't bluffing. I could hear it in her voice. Dad built that company on principles of respect and inclusion. I'm not going to let anyone compromise that. Not even family. Especially not family, James added from the driver's seat. Family should know better. We spent the rest of New Year's Eve at Emma's house. He ordered pizza. We watched the ball drop on TV. Lucas taught us a card game he'd learned at school. It was quiet and peaceful, nothing like the dramatic party we'd left behind. At midnight, Emma raised her glass of sparkling cider. To family, she said. The kind we choose and the kind that chooses us back. We all drank to that. My phone buzzed constantly throughout the evening. My mother, my father, Jennifer, Mark. I ignored them all until the next morning. On January 1st, I finally listened to the voicemails. My father's voice was stiff and formal. Emma, your mother and I would like to schedule a meeting. We need to discuss appropriate professional boundaries. Delete. My mother, crying. How can you do this to us? After everything we've done for you? Delete. Jennifer, more measured. I told them they need to apologize. Really apologize. I hope they listen. I texted her back. Thank you for trying. Mark sent a text. They're idiots. Lucas is a good kid. See you at the office on Monday. He worked in Emma's marketing department. I replied, definitely. On January 2nd, my parents showed up at Emma's office. I know because she called me afterward. They apologized, she said. Sort of. Dad acknowledged that their comments were inappropriate. Mom said she'd been stressed and didn't mean to hurt Lucas. That's not really an apology, I observed. No, it's not, Emma agreed. But I told them they have 90 days probation. One more incident, one more comment, one more exclusionary behavior toward Lucas or anyone else, and they're done. I've also mandated that they both attend the company's diversity and inclusion training. How did they take that? About as well as you'd expect. But they agreed. They need the jobs more than their pride. What about Lucas? He gets to decide if he wants to accept their apology or not. I told them they need to apologize directly to him in person with no excuses or justifications. Just a real acknowledgement of harm and a commitment to do better. They did eventually apologize to Lucas. It took 3 weeks and a family therapy session that Emma insisted on and paid for. The apology was awkward and clearly difficult for them, but Lucas accepted it with more grace than they deserved. Things are still strained. My parents are careful now, watching their words. They include Lucas in photos. They remember his birthday. They're trying, even if it's motivated more by job security than genuine affection. But Emma was right about one thing. Family should know better. And when they don't, sometimes the youngest and most successful among us have to teach them. The fountain pen sits on my father's desk at work. Every time he uses it, I hope he remembers the 12-year-old boy who chose it so carefully, hoping to make his grandfather smile. And I hope he remembers that his granddaughter at 24 had the strength to defend what was right, even when it cost her the easy path. That's the real gift Lucas gave us that New Year's Eve. The reminder that family is defined by loyalty and love, not genetics and tradition. And sometimes the children have to teach the adults what that actually means. The afternoon had started peacefully enough. My son Marcus, 12 years old and proud of his solar panel efficiency model, had set up his display on a folding table near the picnic area. He'd spent 3 months building it, testing different angles and materials. The project meant everything to him. My sister Jennifer arrived late as usual, with her 15-year-old daughter Brittany trailing behind. Brittany wore designer sunglasses and carried the latest phone, scrolling through social media with practiced boredom. Marcus was explaining his project to his younger cousins when Brittany walked past. She paused, glanced at the careful arrangement of miniature solar panels and Marcus's handwritten notes, then laughed. "What is this garbage?" she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Marcus looked up, his face flushing. "It's my science project. I'm testing which angle captures the most sunlight for." "Nobody cares," Brittany interrupted. She reached out and flicked one of the panels, sending it spinning. "This is a family party, not a science fair for losers." I started walking over, but Jennifer beat me to it. Instead of correcting her daughter, she smiled indulgently. "Brittany's right though. This isn't really the time or place for school stuff." "It's okay," Marcus said quietly, trying to stabilize his display. "I'll just move it inside. Or maybe just put it away entirely," my mother suggested, appearing beside Jennifer. "We're here to socialize, not to show off." The way she said show off made my stomach tighten. But I kept my voice level. "Marcus worked really hard on this. He's proud of it." "That's the problem," my father chimed in from his lawn chair. "Always pushing the kid to be something special. Let him be normal for once." I felt Marcus shrink beside me, but I simply nodded. "Sure, Dad." Brittany wasn't finished. She picked up Marcus's research notebook, the one where he documented 3 months of measurements and observations. "Look at all these numbers. What a waste of time." Then she tore out the first page. "Brittany," I said sharply. She tore out another page, then another. Marcus made a small sound of protest, reaching for his notebook, but Brittany held it away from him, continuing to rip pages and let them flutter to the ground. "Nobody wants your nerd stuff here," she announced, finally dropping the destroyed notebook on the table. I waited for someone to intervene. Jennifer was right there. My mother was watching. My father had looked up from his chair. But nobody said anything. A few cousins actually smirked. Marcus's eyes were wet, but he didn't cry. He just started gathering the torn pages, hands shaking. "Maybe this will teach him not to be so weird," Brittany said, walking away. I helped Marcus collect the pieces. His solar panels were still intact, but the documentation he'd need for his science fair submission was destroyed. 3 months of data gone. "I can recreate it," he whispered. "I remember most of the numbers." "I know you can," I said softly. Jennifer came over, but not to apologize. "Don't make a big thing out of this. Brittany's just being a teenager. Marcus needs to learn the world isn't always going to appreciate his interests." I looked at my sister. We'd grown up in the same house, with the same parents who'd never quite understood why I pursued graduate studies while Jennifer married young and focused on social status. The divide between us had started then and never really healed. "Sure," I said. "No big thing." The rest of the afternoon was strained. Marcus stayed quiet, working on his project alone while the other kids played volleyball and swam. I sat with him saying nothing, just present. My mother approached as the sun started setting. You're not going to let this ruin the whole reunion, are you? Tomorrow's the big barbecue. Everyone's expecting you to bring that potato salad. We'll see, I said. Her eyes narrowed. Don't be dramatic. It was just a notebook. You can buy him a new one. It was 3 months of his work. And he can redo it. Character building. She patted my shoulder. Bring the potato salad by noon. And maybe talk to Marcus about being less intense about things. He'd make more friends if he acted more normal. That night, after we got home and Marcus was in bed, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Stop causing drama. Don't come tomorrow. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back. Like the research grant? I set my phone down and went to check on Marcus. He was still awake, his lamp on, trying to recreate his data tables from memory. His face was determined, not defeated. Hey, I said from the doorway. How's it going? I think I remember about 60% of the measurements. I'll have to redo the rest. He looked up at me. Mom, why did Grandma say I need to be more normal? I sat on the edge of his bed. Because sometimes people don't understand that being passionate about things is normal. It's actually the best kind of normal. Brittany called it nerd stuff. Brittany doesn't know what she's talking about. He was quiet for a moment. Are you going back tomorrow? No, I said. I don't think so. Because of me? Because of principle. I kissed his forehead and went back downstairs. My phone was lit up like a Christmas tree. 7 missed calls from my mother. 3 from Jennifer. 2 from my father. Multiple text messages, all variations on the same theme. I was overreacting, being too sensitive, punishing the whole family over a small incident. Then Jennifer's text came through. Mom's really upset. Can you just apologize and move on? Brittany didn't mean anything by it. Also, Mom mentioned you said something about a research grant. What does that even mean? I didn't respond. I made myself tea and sat in the quiet kitchen, thinking about the conversation I'd have to have tomorrow. By 2 a.m. my phone had received 45 missed calls. I'd turned off the ringer after the first dozen. The voicemails were increasingly frantic. My mother demanding I explain myself, Jennifer alternating between anger and confusion, my father gruffly ordering me to stop this nonsense. The last voicemail was from Jennifer again. Okay, I looked you up. You work at the university. So what? What does that have to do with anything? I finally texted back. We'll talk tomorrow. Come to my office. 10 a.m. The next morning I dressed carefully in my usual professional attire and drove to campus. My office was in the Research Administration Building, corner suite, 5th floor. The nameplate on my door read, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Director of Research Grants and Compliance. I'd held the position for 6 years. Before that, I'd been Associate Director for 4 years. I oversaw approximately $340 million in annual research funding distributed across 8 departments. Every grant application that came through the university crossed my desk eventually. Every funding decision I made could determine whether a research program thrived or died. Jennifer arrived first at 9:45 a.m. She walked into my office and stopped, taking in the space, the diplomas on the wall, the view of campus, the stacks of grant proposals on my desk. This is your office? She said. Yes. You're a director? Yes. She sat down slowly. I thought you were, like, a lab assistant or something. No. My mother and father arrived at 10:03 a.m., brought by Jennifer. My mother looked annoyed at having to come to campus. My father looked confused about why we were meeting in an office building instead of at home where we could discuss this like a family. Sit down, I said. They sat. My mother's eyes were already scanning my office, recalculating, reassessing. I could see the moment it clicked. You're in charge of grants, she said slowly. Research grants, yes. I administer and approve funding across multiple departments. Jennifer leaned forward. What does this have to do with yesterday? I opened my laptop and pulled up a file. 3 weeks ago, my office received a grant application from Dr. Michael Preston, requesting $2.3 million for a 3-year clinical research program studying cardiovascular disease. My mother's face went pale. Dr. Preston, I continued, is your brother. My uncle. He's been trying to establish this research program for 2 years. This is his 3rd application. The previous 2 were rejected by other institutions. You're reviewing Mike's grant? My father asked. I am. Along with my review committee. We were planning to approve it. Uncle Mike's research design is solid, his preliminary data is strong, and the funding would establish him as a leading researcher in his field. Jennifer was starting to understand. We're planning to approve it? The review committee meets Thursday. I present my recommendations. They almost always follow my guidance. You're not seriously going to reject it because of a teenage argument at a family reunion, my mother said, her voice sharp. It's not about the argument. It's about values and priorities. Kept my tone professional, detached. I've spent my entire career watching families like ours dismiss intellectual curiosity as weird or excessive. I've seen too many bright kids like Marcus learn to hide their interests because their families tell them to be normal. This is ridiculous, my father said. You'd sabotage your own uncle over a notebook? I'm not sabotaging anyone. I'm simply reconsidering whether I want to advocate for funding in a family that teaches children that academic achievement is something to mock. My mother stood up. You can't do this. Mike has been working toward this for years. His whole career depends on getting this funding. I'm aware. His reputation, his position at the hospital, everything he's built. We'll be fine, I said calmly. He's a good doctor. But his research program won't be established. Not with this funding cycle anyway. He can reapply next year to a different institution. Jennifer's voice was tight. You're punishing Uncle Mike because Brittany was rude to Marcus? I'm making a decision about university resources and which values I want to support with those resources. This is insane, my father said. You're throwing away family over nothing. Marcus's work wasn't nothing. His 3 months of careful observation and documentation weren't nothing. And the way everyone stood there and watched while Brittany destroyed it, the way everyone told him he was the problem for caring too much, that wasn't nothing either. My mother's hands were shaking. If you do this, Mike will know. He'll know you blocked his funding. I'm sure he will. The whole family will know. Good. Then maybe the whole family will understand that there are consequences when you teach children that intelligence and curiosity are flaws to be hidden rather than strengths to be celebrated. There was a long silence. My mother looked like she wanted to say more but couldn't find the words. My father stared at me like I was a stranger. Jennifer kept glancing between my diplomas and the grant proposal on my screen. Finally, my mother said, "What do you want?" An apology. I want Marcus to receive a genuine apology from Brittany and from every adult who stood there and either participated in mocking him or said nothing to stop it. I want Brittany to understand that destroying someone's work has consequences. And I want our family to think very carefully about the values we're teaching the next generation. And if we do that, you'll approve Mike's grant? I shook my head. I'll present it to the committee with my honest professional assessment. What I won't do is personally advocate for it the way I plan to. That advocacy often makes the difference between approval and pending further review. Jennifer finally spoke. You're really going to do this? I already did. I sent my revised recommendation to the committee this morning. My mother sank back into her chair. My father looked at the floor. Jennifer pulled out her phone, presumably to text Uncle Mike or other family members. You can all leave now, I said quietly. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. They filed out without another word. Through my office window, I watched them cross the parking lot, their body language tense, their conversation clearly heated. My desk phone rang 15 minutes later. Dr. Susan Park, my deputy director. Sarah, I got your revised recommendation on the Preston grant. You changed it from strongly support to technically adequate committee discretion. That's going to sink it. What happened? Personal conflict of interest I needed to disclose. Your uncle. Family situation. I can't in good conscience advocate strongly when there are complications. Susan was quiet for a moment. Understood. We'll present it neutrally and let the committee decide. After she hung up, I sat alone in my office. My phone showed 23 new text messages. I didn't read them. Instead, I opened the photo Marcus had texted me that morning. His recreated data table, careful and complete with a message. I remembered more than I thought. I'll be ready for the science fair. I texted back. I never doubted it. The rest would sort itself out. The committee would likely table the Preston grant for further review, which meant a 6-month delay at minimum, possibly longer. Uncle Mike would have questions. The family would have opinions. There would be confrontations and consequences. But for now I had work to do. 3 more grant applications to review, 2 lab compliance reports to approve, and a meeting with the dean about next year's funding allocations. I was good at my job. I'd earned this position through years of careful work and sound judgment. And I'd made my decision. Marcus's project mattered. His passion mattered. And teaching him that some principles were worth defending mattered more than family comfort or professional convenience. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jennifer. Mom's calling everyone. This is going to get ugly. I texted back. It already was ugly. I'm just making sure everyone sees it. Then I silenced my phone and returned to work. My sister Lauren was hosting at her 5-bedroom house. She'd invited the family for what she called a casual Sunday gathering. My son Danny, 10 years old, had been excited to see his cousins. He'd brought his portable gaming device. I'd brought the wine Lauren requested. We arrived at 1. Lauren's 3 kids were in the game room, controllers in hand. Danny headed straight there. I was in the kitchen with Lauren and our mother when Danny appeared in the doorway 20 minutes later, looking confused. Aunt Lauren said I need to clean the bathrooms before I can play, he said. Lauren didn't look up from arranging cheese on a platter. The bathrooms need attention before everyone arrives. The kids can help. Your kids are playing Xbox, I pointed out. My kids cleaned yesterday, Lauren said smoothly. Danny can contribute today. It's good for him. My mother nodded approvingly. Kids need chores. You baby him too much. Danny looked at me uncertain. I could see him trying to process why his cousins were exempt from this sudden need for bathroom cleaning. How many bathrooms? I asked. Just the 5, Lauren said. Won't take long if he focuses. 5 bathrooms. In a house where 3 kids apparently cleaned yesterday, but were now gaming while a guest child was expected to do housework. Danny's a guest, I said carefully. Lauren finally looked at me. Family aren't guests. And honestly, he could use some responsibility. When's the last time he had to do real work? He has chores at home. Like what? Making his bed. My mother laughed. That's not real work. This is teaching life skills. Danny stood there waiting for me to fix this. But Lauren was already handing him cleaning supplies and my mother was nodding along, and I could feel the familiar family dynamic settling into place. The one where I was the overprotective mother, too soft on my son, and they were the practical ones teaching important lessons. It's fine, Danny said quietly, taking the spray bottles and rags. I'll do it. Good boy, my mother said. See? He understands. I watched Danny walk toward the first bathroom, shoulders slumped, and felt something harden in my chest. But I said nothing. I just smiled and turned back to the cheese platter. The afternoon progressed. More family arrived. Lauren's husband fired up the grill. The cousins rotated between the pool and the game room. And Danny cleaned bathrooms. I checked on him once. He was scrubbing the 3rd bathroom, his hands red from the cleaning chemicals, hair damp with effort. Through the window I could hear his cousins laughing in the pool. Almost done? I asked. He nodded. Aunt Lauren said to make sure I get behind the toilets and clean all the mirrors without streaks. Did she? She said her cleaning lady always does it that way, so I should too. He looked up at me. Mom, why do I have to clean when Tyler and Mason and Emma get to play? Because Aunt Lauren asked you to. But that's not fair. I know, buddy. Are you going to say something? I should have marched downstairs and told my sister that exploiting a 10-year-old guest was unacceptable. But I knew how it would go. I'd be accused of overreacting, of not letting Danny learn responsibility, of making everything about fairness when life isn't fair. Finish up, I said instead. Then you can swim. By the time Danny completed all 5 bathrooms, it was nearly 5 o'clock. He'd spent almost 4 hours cleaning while his cousins enjoyed the party. When he finally came downstairs in his swim trunks, my mother stopped him. Let me see your work, she said. She inspected all 5 bathrooms with Danny trailing behind her, then returned to announce, Good job. See what you can do when you apply yourself. Maybe your mother will have you do this at home now. Danny's eyes found mine. I saw the question there, the confusion about why I wasn't defending him. Go swim, I said softly. He had 30 minutes in the pool before we left. 30 minutes of fun after 4 hours of work. His cousins had had 6 hours. On the drive home, Danny was quiet. Then, why did I have to clean and they didn't? Because sometimes family isn't fair. That's not an answer. He was right. It wasn't. But I didn't have a better one yet. That night, after Danny was asleep, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Stop spoiling him. Skip Sunday. Sunday was the big family barbecue at my parents' house. The monthly gathering where everyone was expected to attend. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed, "Like your housekeeping service?" I set the phone down and made myself tea. I knew what was coming. 10 minutes later, my phone started ringing. Lauren first. Then my mother. Then my father. Then my brother. Then Lauren again. I let them all go to voicemail. The texts started accumulating. What do you mean about the housekeeping service? Is this a threat? Call me immediately. You can't be serious. This is insane. By 2 a.m. I had 43 missed calls. I'd turned off the ringer hours ago. In the morning I'd handle it. For now I let them panic. I woke at 7 and made coffee before checking my phone. The voicemails were increasingly frantic. My mother demanding explanations, Lauren alternating between anger and confusion, my father gruffly ordering me to explain yourself. The last voicemail was from Lauren. I looked up your business license. You own CleanCo Premium Services? That's the company we all use. You need to call me right now. I texted back, come to my office. 9 a.m. bring mom. I'd founded CleanCo Premium Services 8 years ago, starting with a single van and 3 employees. Now we had 42 employees, 12 commercial accounts, and over 200 residential clients. We were the premier housekeeping service in the area, known for reliability and thoroughness. Lauren used us twice a week. My mother used us weekly. My brother had a monthly deep clean service. My aunt contracted us for her rental properties. Collectively, my family represented about $8,000 in monthly recurring revenue. More importantly, they all had standing contracts I'd personally arranged, with discounted rates I'd authorized, using crews I'd scheduled to prioritize their properties. My office was in a small professional building downtown. When Lauren and my mother arrived at 9 a.m., they seemed surprised by the space. The reception area with its comfortable seating, the staff moving efficiently through the hallway, the fleet of company vans visible through the back windows. You own all this? My mother said. Yes. My office was at the end of the hall. I gestured them inside and closed the door. How long have you owned this company? Lauren asked. 8 years. And you never told us? You never asked what I did for work. When I mentioned I ran a cleaning company, you assumed I was a cleaning lady. I didn't correct you. My mother's face flushed. That's deceptive. Is it? Or did you just make assumptions based on what you expected from me? Lauren leaned forward. What does this have to do with Danny cleaning bathrooms? I opened my laptop and pulled up their account files. You use our services twice weekly, Tuesday and Friday. We send a crew of 3. They spend approximately 4 hours at your house each visit. You pay $320 per visit, but your actual rate should be $450. I've been giving you a 40% family discount. Okay, Lauren said slowly. So yesterday you had my 10-year-old son spend 4 hours cleaning your bathrooms using techniques you specifically said your cleaning lady uses. You made him work while your children played. You had him do this as a guest at a family gathering. It was just chores. Character building. It was exploitation. And it was particularly ironic given that I own the company that actually cleans your house twice a week. My mother interrupted. You're not seriously upset about this. Kids need to learn responsibility. Your grandchildren were playing video games for 6 hours while their cousins scrubbed toilets. Don't talk to me about responsibility. I turned my screen toward them. Here's your service agreement, Lauren. And yours, Mom. Both contracts include a 60-day termination clause, but there's also a provision for immediate termination if the client relationship becomes untenable. Lauren's eyes widened. You're canceling our service? I'm terminating all family contracts, effective immediately. You'll receive formal notice by end of business today. That's insane, my mother said. Over one afternoon? It's not about one afternoon. It's about values. You treated my son like unpaid help while praising it as life skills. You saw nothing wrong with a child guest doing manual labor while your grandchildren were exempt. And when I objected, you told me to skip family events because I spoil him. We were teaching him. You were using him. And the irony of you using my son's free labor while paying my company thousands of dollars a month to do the exact same work isn't lost on me. Lauren stood up. You can't do this. I have people coming over next week. I need the cleaning crew. You can hire another service. There are several in the area. Not as good as yours, my mother said quietly. She was starting to understand. No, I agreed. Not as good. We're the best because I built this company from nothing. I trained every employee personally. I established quality standards that other services don't match. My crews don't miss appointments, they don't cut corners, and they treat clients' homes with respect. And you're willing to throw that away because of a misunderstanding? Lauren's voice was rising. I'm not throwing anything away. Your accounts represent less than 4% of my revenue. I'll easily replace them with new clients who won't exploit my son while using my services. My mother tried a different approach. What about Sunday? The family barbecue. Danny and I won't be attending. You're really going to split the family over this? I'm not splitting anything. I'm establishing boundaries. If you want to rebuild this relationship, you can start by apologizing to Danny. A real apology, not a justification about life skills. And if we do that, you'll restore our service? Lauren asked. No. The service contracts are terminated regardless. But you might maintain a relationship with your nephew. That's worth more than housekeeping, isn't it? The silence that followed was heavy. My mother's hands were clasped tightly in her lap. Lauren's jaw was set, angry but also calculating. I could see her trying to figure out if I was bluffing. The termination notices will be sent this afternoon, I said. You're welcome to seek service elsewhere. I can provide a list of competitors if you'd like. This is vindictive, my mother finally said. No. Vindictive would be blacklisting you so no reputable service will take your accounts. I'm not doing that. I'm simply choosing not to do business with people who treat my son as lesser than their own children. Lauren gathered her purse. Everyone's going to hear about this. I'm sure they will. You should probably mention to everyone that I own CleanCo when you tell the story. That context matters. After they left, I called my operations manager. Sarah, we need to reassign the Johnson, Preston, and Martinez accounts. Family conflict of interest. Can you reach out to those clients today and let them know we're terminating their contracts per the agreement terms? The family accounts you've been discounting? Sure. Any particular reason? Personal. I'll explain later. Make sure they're given referrals to other services. Be professional. Always am. My phone started ringing again within the hour. My brother, confused about why his monthly service was being cancelled. My aunt, angry that I was punishing her for something Lauren did. My father, demanding I reconsider because this affects everyone. I sent the same text to all of them. Service contracts terminated due to conflict of interest. I'm happy to provide referrals to other companies. By afternoon, my inbox had emails from 3 family members requesting emergency meetings to discuss this. I declined them all. Danny came home from school. Did something happen? Grandma called and left a weird message. What did she say? Something about me being owed an apology. What does that mean? I sat down. Remember yesterday when you cleaned Aunt Lauren's bathrooms? Yeah. I own the cleaning company that normally does that work. Aunt Lauren pays professionals twice a week, but yesterday she had you do it for free. Danny processed this. You own a cleaning company? A pretty successful one. And they all use it? They did. Not anymore. Are you in trouble because of me? No, buddy. I'm making a choice because of what's right. Is the family mad? Some of them. But that's not your problem. He nodded. I didn't like cleaning those bathrooms. I know. And you shouldn't have had to. Tyler said they were going to the water park next weekend and maybe I could come. Do you think they'll still invite me? My heart hurt. I don't know. Maybe not right away. But you know what? People who treat you like unpaid help aren't really your friends, even if they're family. That's sad. It is. But it's also important to know. Over the next few days, the family fallout continued. My mother left voicemails about how I was destroying family unity. Lauren posted vague social media updates about betrayal and using family connections for revenge. My brother stopped responding to my text. But my business didn't suffer. In fact, 3 new residential clients signed up that week, referred by existing customers. The staff noticed I seemed lighter somehow, less tense when discussing scheduling. Sarah, my operations manager, mentioned it during our weekly meeting. You seem different. More relaxed. I terminated some problematic accounts. The family ones. Yeah, I noticed. Honestly, those accounts were always a pain. They called with changes constantly, expected same-day service, complained about things other clients never mention. We're better off. I should have done it years ago. Probably. But you did it when it mattered. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. Lauren's handwriting. Inside, Danny, I'm sorry I treated you like help instead of family. It wasn't right. Aunt Lauren. I showed it to Danny. He read it twice. Is this real? I think so. Does this mean things go back to normal? I don't know what normal is anymore. But it means she's thinking about what happened. Are you going to give them back their cleaning service? No. But maybe we can build a different kind of relationship. My phone buzzed. My mother, can we talk? I replied, when you're ready to really listen, yes. Her response came later. Sunday dinner. Just us. Danny too. 6 p.m. We'll bring dessert. We'd see where it went. But this time on our terms with clear boundaries. Or we wouldn't go at all.